Morning, good afternoon, good evening. The Gaza uprising of 31st March 2025 is unstoppable, according to him. I think there are some people who are determined to take part in that uprising. Ben, what do you think?
Good day to you and good day to all viewers. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's true. It seems as if it's all systems go for this, much anticipated 31st Gaza uprising. That's the best way to describe it. Uh, there are a lot of questions that one has to ask himself, but the most important one is, you know, uh, by participating, is it going to bring us any closer to finding democracy? Is it, going to bring about a voice, you know, for the people? Is it going to bring about, the lasting change and meaningful change that we so much yearn? The answer is no. And the answer is very simple. We are just repeating what we did in 2017 when we removed Mugabe and we put in Mnangagwa. Now we are removing Mnangagwa and putting in Chiwenga. Candidates that are not even, you know, democratically elected. Candidates that are, you know, are decided upon by a certain few, which are ZANU-PF, and still nothing for us to choose. So the questions, the important questions are not being answered by this uprising, and it scares me. It scares me.
Well, there are those who support Mnangagwa and his Vision 2030, and those who are up against it. What I wanted really to look at this afternoon is which groups of people will be participating come 31st of March. Because there are some people who are hell bent on participating. There are some people who firmly believe that by participating, they are playing their part in Zimbabwe's fight for democratic change. And I think those are the people I wanted to focus on. What kind of people are they? In my view, I think there is a group that is hell bent on participating because they believe that by participating, they are making their contribution. This issue of explaining to them that this so-called uprising is not different from what happened in 2017. It's just water off a duck's back. They really cannot comprehend the difference. And that is one of the problems we have with our political system. The system itself, the people themselves are not well educated enough to understand, to differentiate, to make that subtle difference, to appreciate what has happened and relate it to future and past events. And that is a fundamental weakness. If you cannot understand that this against the uprising is being carried out in almost identical circumstances as in 2017. And it's the same players in some cases. The ones who booted out Mugabe to put Mnangagwa are the same ones who are putting out now Mnangagwa to put Chiwenga. And once they put him in, he is going to do just what Mnangagwa did in 2017 and beyond. He will seek to consolidate his hold on power. And therefore, then you can expect there will be no free, fair, and credible election. But explaining that to some of those people, that is the challenge. That is the way I see it.
I mean, we have to look at it also in this way to say desperate people are subject to manipulation. When somebody comes and says, you know, everything that each and every Zimbabwean is feeling right now. I mean, we're looking at unprecedented corruption levels in Zimbabwe. We are looking at high cost of living. We are looking at, you know, living in abject poverty. Just to make a square meal a day has become such a challenge. And, once you have made that money, trying to keep it is even harder. So when somebody comes and promises, heaven and earth or any meaningful, any change, whether it be meaningful or meaningless, people are subject to just, take whatever is dished to them without even thinking. And I think this is where the politician and even, now it is also with the churches as well, they have smelt, you know, this, desperation in the people. And they have realized, we can do whatever we want with such a people. And we are seeing it now. I mean, to anybody that, would want to open their eyes and see and scrutinize what Igeza is promising currently, can see that, and, it's not me. He said it himself. Ndrukudawo mota ini, ndrukudawo, zimota, ndrukudawo my bodyguard. He never said anything about you. He said about himself. He's complaining to say, why is Mnangagwa refusing his fellow comrades? Why is he bringing other, characters that we don't know, that we weren't there, during the liberation struggle, which means those that fought the liberation have the divine right, you know, to the pickings, to the first pickings of Zimbabwe. That is what he is saying. In all the press conferences, he's never spoken about democracy. No war veteran has ever spoken about democracy. The fundamental right for every Zimbabwean is to say, is to have a say in who governs the country, going forward. That has never been spoken about. So, what exactly are we being given? Scraps, their choice. And we have seen that their choice was in 1980 when they said, if ZANU-PF doesn't win, if Mugabe doesn't win, the war will continue. In 2017, they came with Mnangagwa. It was Mnangagwa, Chindu Chedu, period. Here they come again, Chiwenga. When are we going to make that choice? When are we going to have a meaningful, election where you and I can choose who we want instead of being given who they want and having to sacrifice our lives for that? Because right now we are sacrificing our lives for Chiwenga. Chiwenga, who we truly know who he is and what he is capable of doing. So at the end of the day, when people are desperate, I think brains kind of shut down and we just run with whatever is being sold or is being handed out at that moment, which is sad. Very, very sad.
Well, I'll just play a video clip of Kesa talking about Chuchang, Chuchelu.
saka munowina sei imuchore wachinje
aiwaga mirani kutaurire imwe zvinhu zvinoitika handii ndiri kutokutaurira kutaudza kuti hatina kupusaka because ndiri kutokutaurira kuti tozviziva takapusaka ndisikakutauriri zvese we'll deal with this situation at the appropriate time but ndiri kutotaura kuti commander vamunangagwa right navachiwenga handidi right ngavadissolve policy bureau tikwane isu varidzi vechunhu ngavadissolve cabinet inonzi nana kazembe vana soda vanani havambodzi kutaura vane kupani ivavo vane kambamuda vanani why do you hate your comrades kune mageneral kune maretired CIO vakawanda kune retired commissioners of police and other senior officers vakawanda havadiwe.
Maybe the president is looking at capacity and capability.
Bullshit. Vana grade 7 ane capacity and capability. Grade 7 oita bishi yokuti nhasi aitwa minister of state mangwana provincial minister isiripo. We are not apologetic about it. Chinhu chedu ichi toda kutopinda ndoda kuti president vanipo zimota varipo chi toda mabodyguards ini.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyat. Why do you want all this?
I want to be rewarded as well, not to be used like a political condom all the time. I'm not a political condom. And urikona vana mahiya vaya vana vamwe.
The truth of the matter is, we have a group of people, a pool of people in Zimbabwe, whom you can explain until you are blue in the face, that this 31st March uprising is not going to bring about any meaningful change. Just as much as the 2017 coup failed to bring change. Because all it's seeking to do is swap one dictator for another. Just as the 2017 coup sought to replace Mugabe with Mnangagwa, without changing the system itself, the dictatorship itself, you'll change nothing. But these people cannot understand that. They look at the whole problem in isolation. All they can see is the dictator at the top. And they believe that if you can remove the dictator, we'll all live happily ever after. This is comparable to what one writer said in Animal Farm, George Orwell. In his book, he describes this character, Boxer the horse. Boxer had a problem learning things. It took him as long to learn the first 5 letters of the alphabet as it took other animals to learn all the 26 letters of the alphabet. And it was realized that after he had mastered the first 5 letters and went on to the next 5. By the time he mastered the next 5, he had forgotten the first. And so he can only deal with the first 5. It took him forever to learn those, thank God, for heaven's sake. And any problem, any issue that you talk about can only be talked in the context of those 5 letters of the alphabet. He cannot understand the rest of it. So their understanding of issues is so limited to the point that they can only make decisions on the basis of that narrow tunnel vision. And I think that is what we are looking at here. There will be many Zimbabweans who will be joining the 31st March uprising because they only look at, we have a dictator, Mnangagwa, let's get rid of him. They cannot understand anything beyond that. That in this case here, if all you're doing is replace the individual dictator and a few around him, you are just repeating what you did in 2017 when you replaced Mugabe with Mnangagwa. And we've been doing this, in fact, if you wanted to go back to even 1980 itself. By the time the country held its election in 1980, and Mugabe and his cronies started talking of, if we don't win the elections, the push war would continue. The alarm bells should have been started ringing in people's minds. Are we not going to replace these white colonial oppressors with black oppressors? The people were so focused on the whites, the alarm bells did not ring. It took 37 years to finally get rid of Mugabe. And by then, the focus was Mugabe must go. They did not see that they are replacing Mugabe with the same people who had kept Mugabe in power. I mean, one of the classical examples of how Mnangagwa, the role that Mnangagwa played in keeping Mugabe in power, is the electoral coup of 2008. He himself even boasts about it. The war veterans themselves played a key role. Those in the army played an equally key role in that. And the same people who are now behind this.
We wish to make it very clear to all Zimbabwean citizens that the security organization will only stand in support of those political leaders that will pursue Zimbabwe's value, traditions, belief, for which thousands of lives were lost in pursuit of Zimbabwe's hard-won independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the national interest. To this end, let it be known that the highest office on the land is a straitjacket.
What he meant by that is that only those who had fought in the liberation war can become president. And this is why we are where we are, stuck in this mess. This so-called Geza uprising is not seeking to change that. Geza and company still believe that the only leaders competent to rule are SANU-PF leaders. He himself, as we heard him in that video clip, earlier on. He himself sees himself as, I should be minister. Chundeche Luich. And as long as we've got a mentality like that, replacing Mnangagwa with Chiwenga is not going to change anything. And I think this is the tragedy of Zimbabwe, that we never seem to learn from the past. We are like Boxer the horse. We can only learn the first 5 letters of the alphabet. And that's what we can base our decisions on. If we go on to the next 5 letters, by the time we master those, we've forgotten the first. As long as we remain people like that who cannot learn from the past and apply it, or learn the whole letters of the alphabet, make our decisions on the basis of seeing the whole thing, the whole picture, we are going to continue this cycle. Chiwenga will come in, and a few years down the line, we'll realize he's a hopeless dictator, and we'll be clamoring to have him removed. And so the cycle will go on. After 45 years of rigged elections, and the country sinking deeper and deeper into the abyss, we really need to open our eyes and learn from the past for a change. Ben, you can give your closing remarks there, my friend.
In closing, I would like to to answer one of our speakers or our guests that said, they're tired, we are tired of of this criminal gang and Mnangagwa. What happens with a gang, is if you chop off the head or if you remove the head, one or the second in command will take over. We've seen it. Mugabe was removed, Mnangagwa came into the picture, and the gang continued. Now we want to remove again the top, and the second in command, who is Chiwenga, is obviously going to be in the picture. The problem is the gang. That word that you have used it shows intelligence. This gang is ZANU-PF, and this gang is criminal, like you say. It's brutal. These are thugs. The only way to get rid of a gang is to get rid of it entirely, the whole gang. So replacing just the leader with another, group member will not change the identity of the gang. No, 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 no. It will just mean you've just changed, positions, shuffling it. This is what we've been here before. We've witnessed Mnangagwa taking over the reins from Mugabe, and now it shows it's even worse than before. We know what Chiwenga is capable of. I mean, this is a guy that fired all nurses across the whole country just because they wanted a wage increase. And you are saying that this will help us. How? How will, do you think he'll just miraculously be, a priest or a saint? I mean, let's wake up from that dream and face reality. This ZANU-PF is a criminal gang, like you say, is a group of thugs. Get rid of it entirely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. I think the tragedy of Zimbabwe is that we waged the war of independence, and we never seriously thought about what kind of leaders will the armed struggle throw up. And will those be the type of leaders who will want to lead the country? We have had the chance to reflect on the kind of leaders that our armed struggle did throw up. And after 45 years, they're failing to come up with a solution of how are we going to stop these individuals whom the armed struggle threw up, who believe that they have the divine right to rule the country. How are we going to remove them? The only time there's been any change is when they have been fighting each other. And the solution they've offered the nation has always been replacing one tyrant with another. They themselves elect who that leader should be. And when they get tired of him, they come back to us and say, help us get rid of this tyrant. And we will deliver to you a better Zimbabwe. And we've fallen for it again and again. I totally agree with you, Ben. This 31st March uprising is not going to deliver democratic change because we have not dismantled the system, the dictatorship itself. And without dismantling the dictatorship, the system will only come up with another dictator to replace the one who is there now. We should have the guts to stand up and say, no, we don't want to keep on going round and round in circles. And that, unfortunately, is the quantum leap that many of our fellow Zimbabweans out there are failing to make. And the nation is paying dearly for that. Because those who will participate on the 31st March must know, could the more of them who come out to support this Gesa revolution, the more that faction will feel they have the mandate to carry on. If Chiwenga stays in power, if Mnangagwa is forced to step down and Chiwenga takes over, Chiwenga is not going to have free, fair, and credible elections and risk losing power. Geza is saying very clearly he wants to be minister. And if this Geza revolution was to succeed, he will probably be appointed one of the ministers. And a few months down the line, there will be fresh elections. Do you seriously believe he will accept free, fair, and credible elections and risk losing his ministerial position? Of course not. We're just going round and round in circles here. That is the tragedy. Thank you very much, Ben. And those of you who were able to join us this evening, thank you very much for joining us. We'll meet again tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. Zimbabwean time. Have a good night.